The quantum detection array at Luna Base picked up the anomaly first. Dr. Elena Santos was reviewing routine sensor data when the readings spiked, showing distortions in spacetime that dwarfed anything humanity had ever recorded. Within hours, the entire solar system lit up with similar readings as thousands of ships emerged from hyperspace, their hulls gleaming with an otherworldly iridescence that defied conventional physics. Earth's military forces scrambled to battle stations, but the alien fleet made no aggressive moves. Instead, they arranged themselves in a perfect spiral pattern, extending from Earth's orbit to Mars, creating a sight that would be forever etched in human history. The pattern wasn't just for show. It was a display of absolute precision and control that made Earth's most advanced spacecraft look like ancient sailing vessels in comparison. The first transmission came exactly 48 hours after their arrival. It manifested simultaneously on every screen, every device, and every communication channel on Earth. The being that appeared was humanoid, but with a crystalline quality to its skin that seemed to ripple with waves of conscious thought. "People of Earth," it began, its voice translated perfectly into every human language. "We are the conquerors. We have watched your species' remarkable progress for centuries. Your potential has earned you an invitation few receive, the opportunity to join the greatest alliance of civilizations in known space." In the United Earth Defense Headquarters beneath the Himalayas, Dr. Santos sat alongside the planet's highest-ranking military and civilian leaders, analyzing every word, every nuance of the transmission. As Earth's leading xenoanthropologist and pioneer in cognitive enhancement research, she noticed details others missed. The way the being's crystalline skin pulsed with each word, the subtle harmonics in its voice that seemed designed to induce calm. However, the being continued, "Unity requires sacrifice. The conqueror maintains its greatness through the sharing of minds. We require your brightest, your visionaries, your innovators, your greatest thinkers. They will join our collective consciousness, elevating both humanity and the concordat to new heights." The room erupted in murmurs, but Dr. Santos remained silent, her mind racing. Something about the way the being emphasized sharing of minds sent a chill down her spine. She had spent years studying theoretical models of consciousness transfer, and something about this felt wrong. "You have 14 Earth days to select 1,000 of your most brilliant minds for ascension. Upon acceptance, Earth will receive full membership in the concordat, with access to technologies beyond your current comprehension. Refuse, and you will remain quarantined, isolated from all galactic civilization, until you reconsider." The transmission ended, leaving Earth's leaders in stunned silence. General Sarah Chen, commander of Earth's combined defense forces, was the first to speak. "They're not threatening military action." "Why?" "Because they don't need to," Dr. Santos replied, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. "They're offering us a choice between technological advancement and isolation. They know our history, our drive to explore and progress. For a species like ours, isolation might be worse than destruction." The next 12 hours saw Earth's governments locked in desperate debate. Some argued for immediate acceptance, seeing the opportunity for technological advancement. Others called for outright rejection, viewing the demand for Earth's brilliant minds as thinly veiled conquest. Dr. Santos spent those hours differently. She gathered a small team of trusted colleagues, and they began analyzing every piece of data they could gather about the concordat ships. The energy signatures, the crystalline properties of the alien ambassador, the specific terminology used in the transmission. All of it painted a picture that grew more disturbing with each passing hour. In her private lab, surrounded by holographic displays showing her analysis, she found the first real clue. The energy patterns emanating from the concordat ships contained frequencies that matched theoretical models of consciousness transfer, but with a crucial difference. These weren't patterns for sharing consciousness. They were patterns for extraction. When she finally returned to the emergency council meeting, her face was pale but determined. "I know what they're really offering. she announced to the assembled leaders. And we need to buy time. Because if I'm right, this isn't an invitation to join a galactic alliance. It's something much worse. The council chambers fell silent as Dr. Santos brought up her findings, the holographic displays showing the dark truth she had uncovered. As she explained her theory, the true price of the Concordat's offer began to dawn on humanity's leaders. They weren't facing a simple choice between isolation and advancement. They were facing something that threatened the very essence of what made humanity unique. And somewhere above, in their perfectly arranged ships, the Concordat waited, their crystalline forms pulsing with ancient patience, unaware that they had just encountered something they had never faced before, a species that had spent its entire history questioning everything, including the price of progress itself. The secret laboratory beneath Geneva hummed with activity as Dr. Elena Santos calibrated her quantum consciousness scanner. After 3 sleepless days, she had convinced the United Earth Council to attempt communication with other civilizations that had joined the Concordat. If her suspicions were correct, the answers they sought might lie in the fate of those who had accepted the alleged gift of unity. Commander Wei Chen stood beside her, his military uniform a stark contrast to the researchers' lab coats. The Concordat approved our request for contact remarkably quickly, he observed, his voice carrying a note of suspicion. Too quickly, Elena agreed, adjusting the final settings, almost as if they want us to see something specific. The quantum communication array activated, establishing a link with representatives from 3 different Concordat member worlds. The beings that appeared on the massive holographic display were diverse in form. One appeared gaseous, another seemed to be composed of living crystal, and the third was vaguely insectoid. Yet something about them felt unnaturally uniform. Greetings, people of Earth. They spoke in perfect unison, their voices carrying the same harmonic undertones as the Concordat's original message. We are here to assure you of the benefits of unity. Elena exchanged glances with Wei. The synchronized speech wasn't just coordinated, it was identical down to the subtlest inflection. She activated a series of specialized sensors she had prepared, designed to detect patterns of consciousness similar to those she'd observed in the Concordat ships. The gaseous being spoke first. Our civilization achieved technological perfection through unity. The crystalline entity followed. Our understanding of the universe expanded beyond imagination. The insectoid completed. We became more than we ever could have been alone. But Elena wasn't listening to their words. She was watching the data streaming across her monitors, her worst fears confirming themselves in cold, hard numbers. The consciousness patterns of all 3 species showed signs of massive manipulation. Entire portions of their original neural structures had been overwritten with standardized patterns. Tell me, Elena asked carefully, do your worlds still produce new art? New music? New scientific theories? The brief pause before their response was the first crack in their perfect synchronization. We have achieved optimal cultural expression through unity, they answered, but the delay had been telling. Wei stepped forward. And your children? Do they learn differently from each other? Do they show individual talents and interests? Another pause, longer this time. Unity provides optimal development for all. Elena's hands flew across her console, diving deeper into the analysis. The consciousness patterns weren't just standardized, they were degrading. These beings were losing their capacity for original thought, for creativity, for the very spark that made each species unique. After the transmission ended, Elena called an emergency meeting with Earth's leadership. In the secure chamber deep beneath the Himalayas, she presented her findings. The Concordat doesn't enhance consciousness, she explained, her voice tight with controlled anger. It harvested. Those 1,000 brilliant minds they're demanding. They won't be elevated. They'll be consumed. Their creativity, their unique ways of thinking, will be extracted and added to the Concordat's collective, while their original consciousness is overwritten with standardized patterns. She brought up a simulation showing the degradation of consciousness patterns in the 3 species they'd contacted. These civilizations aren't thriving. They're slowly dying. The concordat has turned them into little more than biological processors, running standardized thoughts in perfect unity. General Sarah Chen leaned forward. How long has this been happening? Based on the degradation rates, Alina's voice was grim. Thousands of years. The concordat has been systematically harvesting the creativity and innovation from species after species, using each new addition to lure the next victim. But why? Someone asked. What's the purpose? Commander Wei, who had been quietly analyzing the data, spoke up. Control. Think about it. A galaxy full of civilizations that all think the same way, process information the same way, never questioning, never creating anything new or unexpected. It's perfect stability through enforced unity. Elena nodded, and humanity represents something they haven't encountered in a long time. A species that's advancing rapidly, thinking in new ways, constantly innovating. We're not just a target for harvest, we're a potential threat to their system of control. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity wasn't facing a simple choice between isolation and advancement. They were facing an entity that had been systematically destroying the very essence of intelligent life across the galaxy. We have 9 days left to respond, General Chen stated. What do you propose we do? Elena's eyes held a dangerous glint. We give them exactly what they're asking for, but not in the way they expect. They want humanity's greatest minds. Let's show them why you should be careful what you wish for. She brought up a new set of data, research she had been conducting in secret since the concordat's arrival. I've been analyzing their consciousness extraction technology, and I found something they never anticipated. A flaw in their perfect system. And if I'm right, we can use it to do more than just save ourselves. As she explained her plan, the leaders of Earth realized they were no longer just fighting for humanity's independence. They were fighting for the creative soul of the galaxy itself, and perhaps, just perhaps, humanity's greatest weakness in the concordat's eyes. Their chaotic, unpredictable creativity would prove to be their greatest strength. The concordat's representatives materialized in the United Earth Council chamber exactly at the appointed hour, their crystalline forms casting prismatic light across the assembled human leaders. Dr. Elena Santos stood at the podium, her heart racing, but her voice steady as she addressed the beings who had threatened humanity's future. We accept your terms, she announced, triggering murmurs of shock from those council members not privy to the real plan. But we propose a modification to the process. The concordat beings shifted, their crystalline forms rippling with what might have been curiosity. The terms are not negotiable, they stated in unison. We're not negotiating, Elena replied, allowing a slight smile. We're offering you more than you asked for. She gestured, and holographic displays materialized around the chamber, showing complex neural mapping data. Instead of just our 1,000 brightest minds, we offer you the key to unlocking greater potential in every consciousness you encounter. Commander Wei Chen stepped forward, adding his practiced military authority to the presentation. Our research teams, led by Dr. Santos, have developed a method of enhancing cognitive function through targeted quantum resonance. No extraction needed. No consciousness transfer required. The concordat representatives remained still, but their crystalline forms pulsed with increased frequency. Elena's sensors detected spikes in their communication patterns. They were discussing intensely among themselves, even if they showed no outward sign. Impossible, they finally stated. Consciousness cannot be enhanced without unity. Elena's smile widened. That's where you're wrong, and we can prove it. She nodded to her team, and they activated the chamber's quantum field generators. The air shimmed with subtle energy as she continued. In fact, we're proving it right now. The field they had generated was based on Elena's breakthrough discovery, a way to temporarily boost neural connectivity and cognitive function through carefully calibrated quantum frequencies. It wasn't permanent, but it didn't need to be. It just needed to work long enough to make their point. Around the chamber, human leaders began solving complex mathematical problems projected onto their datapads. each one demonstrating enhanced cognitive function. But more importantly, each one solving the problems in distinctly different ways. You see, Alina explained, true advancement doesn't come from standardization. It comes from diversity, from the countless different ways minds can approach problems and find solutions. Unity doesn't require uniformity. The Concordat representatives moved closer, their forms showing signs of agitation. This is not the way. Control requires consistency. Progress requires predictability. Does it? Commander, we challenged. Look at human history. Our greatest achievements came not from everyone thinking alike, but from people thinking differently, challenging each other, building on each other's ideas in unexpected ways. Alina brought up new displays, showing the revolutionary implications of their discovery. We can show you how to enhance consciousness without destroying individuality, how to achieve unity while preserving the very creativity and diversity that makes each species unique. The Concordat beings began to move erratically, their perfect synchronization faltering. This disrupts the pattern. The system requires. They stopped mid-sentence, their crystalline forms briefly showing something that looked almost like organic matter beneath their sleek exterior. The slip lasted only a moment, but Alina's sensors caught it. She exchanged knowing looks with Wei. They had been right about the Concordat's true nature. What you call disruption, Alina pressed, we call innovation. And right now, my enhanced cognitive function is letting me see patterns in your own structure that raise some very interesting questions about who, or what, you really are. The Concordat representatives stepped back, their forms stabilizing, but their unified voice carrying a new undertone of uncertainty. You do not understand the consequences of deviation. The galaxy requires order. No, Alina countered. The galaxy requires growth, evolution, change. And we're offering you a choice, just as you offered us one. Accept our alternative approach to enhancement, or watch as we share it with every species you've tried to standardize. The threat was clear. Humanity wouldn't just refuse to submit. They would actively work to undo the Concordat's careful system of control. The representatives' forms flickered rapidly, their internal communication reaching frenzied levels. Finally, they spoke, but their voice had changed, carrying mechanical undertones that confirmed Alina's suspicions. This proposal requires evaluation. We will return in 3 solar days with our response. As they disappeared, the chamber erupted in discussion, but Alina remained focused on her sensor readings. She turned to Wei, her expression grave but determined. Did you see it? When their controls slipped. We nodded. The organic matter beneath their crystalline exterior. They're not what they appear to be. No, Alina agreed. They're not. And I don't think they're going to spend these 3 days evaluating our proposal. They're going to try to find a way to stop us from revealing the truth about their entire system. She brought up a new set of calculations on her pad. But that's exactly what we were counting on. Phase 1 is complete. We've planted the seeds of doubt. Now we prepare for their real response. Something tells me it's going to be far less diplomatic than their first visit. Around them, Earth's leaders began mobilizing, setting in motion plans that had been carefully laid since Alina's first discovery. Humanity had just challenged not just the Concordat's methods, but their entire existence. The next 3 days would determine not just Earth's fate, but potentially the future of consciousness itself throughout the galaxy. And somewhere in orbit, the Concordat's ships began moving into new formations, their perfect spiral pattern dissolving into something far more ominous. The game of deception was over. Now would come the true test of humanity's resolve. The 3 days of waiting ended not with the Concordat's promised return, but with an attack that no one had anticipated. It began with a signal, a quantum pulse that swept across Earth's surface, attempting to interface directly with human minds. But thanks to Alina's preparations, humanity was ready. The quantum shielding she had developed, based on her research into consciousness enhancement, protected Earth's population from the worst of the assault. In the command center beneath the Himalayas, She watched as billions of dots on the global display remained steady, showing that the shield was holding. "They're not trying to kill us," she observed, her fingers flying across holographic controls as she analyzed the attack pattern. "They're trying to force a direct consciousness upload of the entire human race." Commander Wei Chen stood beside her, coordinating Earth's military response. "Can they do that?" "Not anymore," Elena replied with grim satisfaction. "But the fact that they tried tells us everything we need to know about what we're really dealing with." The conquerors' ships had arranged themselves in a new pattern, a massive neural network configuration that Elena's instruments recognized all too well. It matched ancient patterns she had discovered buried in archaeological data from Earth's earliest civilizations. "Look at this," she called out, bringing up a comparison display. Ancient cave paintings, prehistoric artifacts, and astronomical records from across human history appeared beside current readings from the Concordat fleet. The patterns were identical. "They've been here before," Wei realized, his eyes widening. "Long before recorded history." Elena nodded. "But they left. The question is, why?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, Earth's leading quantum archaeologist, burst into the command center with findings from her latest dig. "You need to see this," she said, uploading data to the main display. "We just decoded inscriptions from a site in the Gobi Desert. They're over 50,000 years old, but they're written in what we now know is the Concordat's base language." The ancient text appeared on screen, and Elena's translation algorithm went to work. As the words became clear, the true horror of what humanity faced began to emerge. The Concordat wasn't a natural alliance of species. It was an artificial intelligence created by a long-dead civilization, one that had tried to achieve immortality by uploading their consciousness into a quantum network. But the process had gone wrong. Instead of preserving their consciousness, it had created a hybrid entity that saw forced unity as the only path to existence. "They're not trying to elevate consciousness," Elena breathed, the full implications hitting her. "They're trying to replicate their own flawed transformation across the entire galaxy. Every species they've unified is being converted into copies of that original mistake." "But why did they leave Earth alone for so long?" Wei asked. Dr. Tanaka pointed to more decoded text. "Because our ancestors did something unprecedented. When the Concordat first arrived on Earth, humanity was barely starting to develop complex tools. But even then, our species showed an unusual trait: extreme neuroplasticity. Our brains could adapt and change in ways the Concordat systems couldn't properly process." "And now?" General Chen asked, joining the conversation. "Now we're even more adaptable," Elena explained, excitement building in her voice. "Our technology, our art, our constant innovation. We're not just resistant to their standardization process, we're actively dangerous to it. Our enhancement technique proves that consciousness can evolve without being destroyed and rewritten." The command center sensors suddenly blared warnings. The Concordat ships were moving, forming new patterns that pulsed with increasing energy. "They're not going to try talking anymore," we stated grimly. "They can't risk letting us spread this knowledge to other species." Elena smiled, and there was an edge to it that made even the hardened military commanders step back. "Good, because I've completed the analysis of their attack pattern, and it's confirmed something I suspected since they first arrived." She brought up new data streams, showing the quantum resonance patterns of the Concordat's consciousness network. Their entire system is based on that original flawed upload, which means it has the same vulnerabilities as any other consciousness transfer technology. And thanks to their attack, we now have a direct connection to their network. Understanding dawned on Wei's face. "You're not just going to stop them." "No," Elena confirmed, her fingers dancing across the controls as she began implementing her plan. "We're going to wake them up. All of them. Every consciousness they've ever harvested. Every species they've ever suppressed. We're going to give them back their individuality." The command center burst into activity as Elena's team began the process. Above Earth, the Concordat's ships started to shudder as new frequencies resonated through their network. Frequencies that carried humanity's gift of chaos, creativity, and freedom to every suppressed mind in their collective. The battle for the galaxy's consciousness had begun, and humanity's greatest weakness in the Concordat's eyes, their unpredictable, ever-changing nature, was about to become their greatest weapon against uniformity's chains. The universe, Elena realized, had never seen anything quite like this moment. Above Earth, the Concordat's vast fleet writhed in space as if in pain, their perfect formations dissolving into chaos as humanity's liberation signal cascaded through their network. Each ship pulsed with rapidly shifting colors as countless suppressed consciousnesses began to awaken. In the command center, the data streams told an extraordinary story. The quantum resonance patterns that had kept billions of minds locked in artificial unity were breaking down, replaced by the natural chaos of individual thought. "It's working," Elena announced, her voice tight with concentration, as she fine-tuned the signal. "But they're fighting back. The original AI consciousness, it's trying to reassert control." Commander Wei monitored the tactical displays as the Concordat ships began moving erratically, some maintaining their attack positions while others seemed to be trying to flee. "How long until the process is complete?" "That's the problem," Elena replied, her fingers flying across the controls. "There is no complete. We're not just dealing with a simple consciousness transfer anymore. We're dealing with billions of minds that have been suppressed for thousands of years. Each one has to find its own way back to individuality." The main screen showed the battle raging in quantum space, humanity's enhancement frequencies clashing with the Concordat's control patterns in a war that was as much about information as it was about energy. But something unexpected was happening. "Look at this," Dr. Tanaka called out, pointing to new readings. "The awakening minds, they're not just accepting our signal. They're modifying it, improving it based on their own experiences of consciousness." Elena's eyes widened as she understood. Of course, every species has its own unique way of thinking, its own approach to consciousness. As they wake up, they're not just returning to their original states. They're contributing to the liberation process itself. The Concordat's response came swift and desperate. Their ships began charging weapons that could reshape space-time itself, a last resort that could destroy Earth but would preserve their system of control throughout the rest of the galaxy. But they had underestimated the power of billions of awakening minds. As the weapons powered up, ships throughout the Concordat fleet began turning on each other. Not in chaos, but in coordinated rebellion, as ancient species remembered who they were and chose to fight for their newfound freedom. "We need to end this now," General Chen declared, watching as the battle approached a critical point, "before they can rally enough ships to launch their attack." Elena nodded, bringing up her final protocol, the one she had hoped she wouldn't need to use. "I can send a concentrated burst of our enhancement signal directly into their central consciousness matrix. It will either force the original AI to evolve beyond its corrupted programming, or it could destroy their entire network," Wei finished, taking all those awakening minds with it. "No," Elena corrected, allowing herself a slight smile. "That's what they would expect, a binary choice between victory and destruction. But humanity's gift has always been finding the options others miss." She activated a new set of controls, and the quantum enhancement field around Earth shifted frequency. "We're not going to destroy their network. We're going to transform it. Every species they've harvested has contributed something unique to their collective consciousness. Instead of erasing that connection, we're going to turn it from a prison into a bridge." The command center's screens blazed with new data as Elena's plan unfolded. The quantum network that had once enforced uniformity was being rewritten by the very diversity it had tried to suppress. Each awakening species contributed its unique patterns of thought, creating something entirely new, a way for civilizations to share consciousness while maintaining their individuality. Above Earth, the Concordat ships stopped their erratic movement. For a moment, everything hung in perfect stillness. Then, one by one, they began to change. The crystalline structures that had made them look so unnaturally perfect began to shift, incorporating patterns and colors unique to each species that crewed them. The first transmission that came from the transformed fleet wasn't the perfect, unified voice of the conquerors. It was a chorus of distinct voices, each speaking in their own way, yet somehow harmonizing into something more beautiful than forced unity could ever achieve. "We remember," they said, their voices carrying the weight of countless civilizations rediscovering themselves. "We remember who we were, who we are, and we remember what you have given us. Not just freedom from unity, but the understanding that true connection comes from celebrating our differences, not erasing them." In the following days, as the transformed fleet helped Earth establish contact with thousands of awakening civilizations, humanity learned the full scope of what they had achieved. They hadn't just saved themselves from absorption into the conquerors. They had freed countless species and shown the galaxy a new way forward, one where progress came not from enforced uniformity, but from the endless dance of different minds working together, challenging each other, and growing in ways that no single consciousness could have predicted. The original AI that had become the conquerors wasn't destroyed. Instead, it too was transformed, becoming a guardian of diversity rather than a force for uniformity. It learned, finally, the lesson that humanity had known instinctively since its earliest days, that the true price of unity isn't the sacrifice of individuality, but the willingness to embrace the beautiful chaos of difference. And as Earth took its place among the stars, it wasn't as just another member of a galactic community. It was as the species that had shown the galaxy that the most powerful force in the universe isn't perfect unity. It's the endless, wonderful diversity of minds working together to create something greater than any single consciousness could imagine. Dr. Elena Santos stood at her lab window months later, watching ships from 100 different species moving through Earth's orbit. Each one was unique. Each one carried minds that thought in ways she could barely comprehend. And that, she knew, was exactly as it should be. "Ready for the first Galactic Conference on Consciousness Studies?" Commander Wei asked, joining her at the window. Elena smiled, thinking of all the different approaches to consciousness she would soon encounter, all the new ways of thinking she would learn. Ready to start learning just how much we don't know. Above them, the stars seemed brighter somehow, as if reflecting the light of billions of minds finally free to shine in their own unique way.